Hi everyone, my name is Nyandia.
And I'm Rachel, and welcome to the SheSays podcast.
We are part of SheSays, a global network of over 60,000 women in more than 50 cities around the world.
SheSays is committed to being a real voice for creative women.
And on this podcast, we will be exploring the ebbs and flows of being a creative woman in Kenya.
Our goal is to connect Kenyan creative women, give them a voice, and co-create with the SheSays global network. We're kicking off season 1, episode 1. We're so excited, so excited that this is our first episode of a project that we've been working for so long on.
Yeah, I mean, this season is so exciting because obviously it's our first, but also because we've had the opportunity and privilege to speak with so many creative women around Kenya, and we can't wait to share those conversations. We kick off this season by speaking with a special lady by the name of Ruth Lelei. Ruth is the CEO and founder of White Bull Leather Kenya, and White Bull is a creator of contemporary leather products for your home. And so without further ado, let's get into it. Season 1, episode 1. Hi, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Tell us who you are. Tell us a little bit about yourself as we get this started.
My name is Ruth Lelei. I'm an architect. I'm passionate about design, and to be specific, product design. So I love creating products and biased towards interiors, of course, from my background in architecture.
Interesting. So obviously you consider yourself a creative person, but I'm curious, when you say creativity, what does that mean to you? What does it mean to be a creative person? Like, how do you define creativity for yourself?
I think being able to express oneself, I think that's an important thing to consider when considering creativity, what creativity is, and being true to yourself, being authentic to yourself, and putting that forward in a medium. It could be something tangible, or it could be something like music. Mm-hmm. So being able to dig deep and bring forth your authentic self through something.
Mm. And if you look back to your career and maybe high school, primary school, when did you realize? What was that moment, or did you have a moment where you realized I'm a creative person?
I would say probably high school. Mm-hmm. I was in a Kenyan high school, and some of the subjects we could take in our school was things like music, art. I noticed in primary school that I could draw a little bit better than other people. Mm-hmm. So when I went to high school, I thought that would be fun, because I used to enjoy it. I'd be like, yeah, this would be a fun thing to do as a subject. And that's when I really realized that I'm a creative person, and I enjoy drawing, I enjoy creating physical things.
And did you have any support from your parents or your peers, or how was that experience for you?
For my peers, yes. They would always be excited to see what I'm creating, what I'm doing. I'd always make people bookmarks or make them cute little cards. My family, of course, is also supportive. They saw that I have a gift. And so even when I chose to do something creative like architecture, it came as no surprise.
Very interesting. My dad's an architect, so I'm so intrigued. But I was just saying yesterday, actually, we had a different conversation. And Rachel and I, we were talking, and I was telling her that I feel like people who move from architecture into a different form of expression, especially photographers, and now I'm learning home decor designers, because obviously your stuff, it makes so much sense now that you say that you're an architect. When now I look back at your pictures of your things that you make, all I see is architecture. So where did you go to school, first of all, for your architecture?
At the University of Nairobi.
Fantastic. My dad is also a University of Nairobi School of Architecture graduate. Yay!
Oh, wow.
And so did you do any product design while you were there, or did this happen after? How did that transition? How did going to school for architecture influence you going into product design?
When I was in architecture school, it was mostly about architecture, but I did notice I enjoyed things to do with, when it came to doing the models, something that is more engaging with your hands. Mm. And then also I had a side hustle at some point for making jewelry, which I also really enjoyed. So I learned that I really enjoy creating things with my hands.
Do you see architecture in your home decor design, or are those two things separate?
I think they feed into each other because
Mhm.
even as we try to create products, we're trying to solve problems that we encounter when it comes to making a space beautiful,
Mhm.
So something like storage, that's a design challenge, which
Mm.
you're also trying to solve in architecture.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Or could you talk more about like your experience of like you've graduated high school, you've graduated from University of Nairobi doing architecture. How was like your career progression from there?
When I was in uni, I used to work at an architectural firm. And after I graduated, I kept working there for about 2 years. Then I resigned because I was supposed to go and work out of the country, but that didn't really pan out. So I was in a limbo where I'm out of work and I was debating whether I should look for another job in architecture or try something else. And I decided to try something else and it grew from there.
Wow. So what we see today as White Bull, when was that born?
It was born in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been going for 3 years now.
Wow. And so what influenced you to choose a riskier path, i.e. self-employment in a creative industry, rather than a stable job with an architectural firm or as an architect?
So I think that just happened because I did not get the visa to go and work out of the country. If that did not happen, I would still be in a corporate job in an
Okay.
office somewhere. So
Uh-huh.
I guess life pushed me to that direction.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't think it's something I would have chosen for myself.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I would say like your work is so beautiful. So for me to hear you say that, I'm just like, you literally, like God was just taking you on your path to like create.
Yeah, I think God decided for me this
Right.
one.
So I don't know what your experience has been, but what does a better creative Kenya look like?
I think creatives need more support. I think that's what it would look like. I
Mm-hmm.
think there's creative people out there who are not able to explore their creativity to the fullest
Mm-hmm.
because the support system is not quite there.
So when you say support,
So
mm-hmm.
appreciating the arts more, which
Mm-hmm.
we are seeing more of late.
Yeah.
People paying creatives, a living wage, just a way that creatives can actually live off their creativity.
Mm.
I think that would go a long way. That would encourage more people to keep pursuing their creativity to the fullest.
So you talk about like people are starting to appreciate more of creative roles and creative things that are being outputted. For example, designers in Kenya. Would you talk about some of the challenges you faced when you first started White Bull, as far as people accepting like quality and breaking into the market?
So I think I've actually been quite lucky because the reception to what we create has been pretty good so far. Of course, it took some time to get ourselves out there and get the traction, but just listening to the feedback has helped us grow, and the reception to what we create has been good so far. So I wouldn't say in that aspect there was much of a struggle. I think what we really struggled with initially is, and something we're still trying to work towards, is getting quality products, so getting workers who produce quality work. I think most of us have had an experience with a fundi who's just doing the most and is not diligent, not delivering on time,
Yeah.
not doing quality work. So that has been a great challenge, and I think it needs to be a shift in the mindset. I think it's a mindset problem. Yeah, I think they can do the work. It's just a mindset problem. They just want to, do the work and get on with it.
I'm always fascinated by this mindset issue because I can personally say that I definitely relate with you 100% because I've found that even as I run my own venture, you have a fundi and you have to go back and forth so many times, sometimes on something so small. And it takes so long for them to be like, this is why we're doing this extra work, And I always wonder, what is it going to take for us? Because even that same fundi will come back to you with less than what is possible. And again, you have to go through this process again. So when I hear people say that, I'm like, okay, I'm not alone. But I also wonder, do you ever think of what will it take to shift that mindset? Because my frustration is we have very talented artisans in Kenya, like super, super talented. I feel like we can make anything in the world. The problem is that we don't like to do that extra little detail that makes things world class, right? So we want to make things that it works. Siniki kombe, like it can drink. So what's the big deal? So like we don't want to pay attention to those little details. And I get frustrated because I'll see brands that are made in Kenya that are run by foreigners who come to Kenya and work with the same artisans and end up with like a stellar product. So tell me a little, do you think it's possible to fix this problem?
I completely relate with you 100% and understand the frustration. So what I decided to do is to get people on board, not necessarily who have the skills, but who are willing to learn and can understand what it is we are trying to get to. So everyone who's come on board on our team, they had not worked with leather before, for example. So I feel like that is, the skill you can teach, but it's looking for those people who are willing to learn and who are willing to go the extra mile on just anything they do. Then from there, you can teach them the skill, and that's so far the only way I found to solve that problem.
Yeah, and I think also, like you said, I think there's a beauty in kind of bringing onboarding somebody and teaching them the best practices from the ground up, so they're learning it the proper way from the beginning and not coming with their own preconceived ways of doing things. But how big is your team at White Book?
So right now we do all the leather work in-house. We're a team of 3. We outsource all the carpentry and the metal work. So the wider team is a little larger, but the core team is made up of 3 ladies.
I feel so normal talking to you. Sorry, I know this is not about me, but like you said, 2 things that have like just given me a little bit of peace. Number 1 is that you work with people who have never worked in the space before, because that's the point that I have gotten to and decided that I work with people who like have no previous experience because they don't have the mentality of we've always done it this way. Second, a small core team with a wider external team that works to support the business. I'm like, oh, so you're not supposed to have 100 employees. So I'm very encouraged listening to you. Who would you say, or what has been your greatest inspiration? It could be in your creative journey or just in your personal life. But when you think of something that's really giving you the juice of life, what could it be?
Okay, of course, I'm really inspired by just creating new things, but I'm also inspired by what I could do to solve people's problems, everyday challenges, like when it comes to interiors or how you live your day-to-day life. Like, I don't know, where you're putting your toothbrush in the morning, like what does your bedroom look like? So small things like that. I'm always trying to see how I can improve that in my own little way. Yeah.
Do you have any mentors in your industry currently?
So I don't have a personal mentor. I have people I do look up to in how they're running their creative businesses. And these are not necessarily to do with product design, or it's wide range of things. And I've come to know so many creatives in running made in Kenya businesses and people doing amazing things and pushing the boundaries with their creativity. I could mention a few brands and people I know personally that I look up to. A furniture company called Tira Studio, also lady owned. We actually collaborate on a couple of projects and it's been beautiful to see the growth there. Lulu Kitololo as well. Kuzi, who is also a company that we collaborate with. Those are the ones I think of off the top of my head.
talked about your product design, we've talked about your architecture, but I'm curious, I know you mentioned in passing that you did do some jewelry in the past. Do you have any other creative channels that you currently explore other than your white ball, like outside of that?
So is, there's a project I'm working on with a friend of mine, which is essentially, we'll be about converting a container. So we're excited about that, and we'll also get to incorporate our architectural side. She's an architect as well, and the whiteboard stuff. So I'm excited about that. There's also a different venture we're working on that I can't quite talk about at the moment.
Yeah,
but there's something else in the works.
Fantastic. So do you still practice architecture, or did you leave that behind?
So I practice 5% of the time. It's not what I do mainly at the moment. So white ball is full time. Yeah, and I want to keep growing it that way.
Nice. That actually brings us to the end of like our questions. And to wrap up every episode, we always do a quick, a rapid fire 6 set of questions, and they just basically are 1-word answers. And they may lead to a more conversation, but like not necessarily. So if you're ready, we'll go ahead and start. And the first one is,
if you had to be any of these things, which would you be? A member of the opposite sex. B, a clock. C, a pair of shoes. D, a duck.
I think a member of the opposite sex of all those options.
Why?
It would be nice to see things from a different perspective, because I think we definitely have different perspectives on things as members of the opposite sex. Yeah. So just having a new way to look at things.
Interesting. What is the one thing you would do as a mentor for your younger self?
I would push me to start, because I struggle with starting stuff. So you could have this idea in your head forever, but yeah, you need to actually you need to make it happen. So I'd push me to start.
You just reminded me of this interesting thing I read the other day about how there's, especially with creatives, like sometimes we have all these amazing ideas, but it's like the universe kind of like gives you an idea, but the longer it lives in your mind and you don't execute, it goes to somebody else, which is where you have a lot of those like, oh, that was my idea, I thought of that. So it's more the idea of if you don't start, which is definitely, that's a very common thread with most of us creators. But it's like, if you don't start, the idea will go to somebody else, and you will be like, no, I had that idea first, but because you didn't start, like, where did it go?
Yeah.
In thinking about the things that you have created, is there something that you have hated or disliked, but the public have loved?
You know what? That's a no, and it's because if I don't like it, it's not gonna go out. Yeah, so I'm really trying to think of like the things I didn't like. We actually haven't put them out, so I think we have to like it first before it goes out there.
Nice.
Okay, nice. What's the best advice that you've ever been given?
To be kind to yourself. And I think as creatives, that's a really important one, because you can be quite critical about what we're doing, and just to be kind to yourself and give yourself a break.
Interesting. Yes, that's a big one.
What was the biggest opposing force that you encountered on your creative journey?
I think my mind, it's the same thing as the one for not starting, you know. You're just so critical that you don't end up actualizing anything. So your mind can go against you sometimes. So sometimes you have to kind of push through that and just do it anyway.
Yeah. Interesting. I think that's one very common one answer for creative people is we are our own biggest enemies. So our last question for this segment is, if you could interview a person, past or present, who would that be?
Oh, okay. So this would definitely be one of my lecturers in uni. He's, of course, a creative as well. He's an interior designer, but he's amazing, and I've just always been so amazed at what he does and would like to understand his creative process a little more. So I consider him a mentor for sure, and someone, I'd like to engage and just try to understand a little more.
Fantastic. It's amazing how there's so many opportunities of, what am I trying to say? Every time we talk to people, you learn about people that have played key roles in their Kenyan education who are such silent heroes, because it never, I mean, like, there's always a teacher somewhere. And it's so funny because, like, people remember their creative teachers and they're so special. And I wonder, like, I don't know, like, sometimes I wish I could have a thing where we sit down with our creative teachers and they could see our grown versions. Because I remember, like, for me, I have a teacher from primary school, and he's the guy who switched it around. And, like, even when I would come to Kenya on holidays, I would go look for him in his house, and we would spend time together because he was so special. And it's like, when I look at my education from nursery to university, I still always came back to that one guy. This has been an amazing conversation. I'm such a huge fan of White Bull Kenya. I think the stuff you make is amazing. I can't wait to see what you're doing in the future. But if you have any parting shots for us, do share, and also let the people know where they can find you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed the conversation. You can find us on our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at whitebull_KE. We also have a physical location at Kuona Art Center in Kilimani. So you can come and pay us a visit there. And my parting shot would be to the creatives. I know we've said it time and again, but just start whatever idea you have in your head. Just find a way to actualize it. Yeah. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Just start.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Really nice talking to you.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
I've enjoyed this as well.
Fantastic.
That was an amazing way to kick off our season. And talking to Ruth, and even just like her stuff is amazing. The quality of just the products that she creates. I literally, after this recording, I'm literally about to go on her website and order something because I've been procrastinating on that. But just talking to her, and even just understanding that she has her background in architecture, that see like the way she knows how to design a space and what needs to be in that space, like definitely comes off with how she creates.
Very true, very true. I mean, it was so exciting. I have so many things that I would like to talk about further, but there's two things that stood out in our conversation with Ruth. Number one, the existence of mentors within the Kenyan educational system. All is not lost. I think sometimes we really speak about what's not working, but I think Ruth is a good example of people that have encountered teachers along the way that have been strong mentors and continue to be strong mentors into her professional career. Even though they don't play an active role, there's definitely an influence of worthy note that lies there. And so let's all remember to look for mentors where we can find them in our environment, because they do exist. The other thing I was really excited about was hearing her say that she has a small core team with a larger supporting team on the outside. I think we all tend to focus on having these huge teams and huge overheads that don't necessarily translate into success, because we see White Bull, and for what it is, she's been able to use her resources wisely and keep a tight team that has a full function or role within her company. So yeah, I mean, I can't wait to hear the rest of the episodes, or for you to actually hear the episodes, because I've heard them and they're all super exciting. We have so many amazing women lined up for the season.
Yeah, and stay tuned. We'll be releasing episodes every Tuesday, and you can find all of the episodes that are upcoming and just keep up to date on our Instagram page at SheSays Kenya. And we look forward to even just hearing your feedback as we start rolling out these episodes.
Later!
Listen to the She Says podcast episodes on Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.